Brian Pierce with the Pierce Brothers. Now, just a minute ago, we did a full-length video on Great Western Arms. You might want to go check that one out. But this is going to be a short video on the 357 Atomic. And that was a cartridge that we just have never quite been able to round that thing up and put it in the lab. We've never been able to find one. It doesn't seem like anybody has any ammunition. We don't know what the cartridge was. So I've done a lot of research. I've owned many guns in that caliber. Now, obviously, it will fire, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but it will fire standard 357 Magnum ammo. But in examining many, many guns, here's kind of some things I've come up with. Let me lay those down so Joe can get a good photo of them. What I've kind of come up with is that Great Western between 1954 and 1964, which was the era that they manufactured the Frontier revolver, is that they used 3 different chambers on guns in 357 Atomic. At least that's how many I've discovered. Some almost appeared to be bored straight through, although it was a very sloped shoulder within that chamber. And my best guess is the Great Western was trying to get the case lengthened, and of course this is speculation, total speculation based on measurement of chambers and other things. I think they wanted to stretch that case at least 50 thousandths, maybe, probably more likely 75 thousandths, maybe even 100 thousandths in length. So they wanted to take a 357 case and lengthen it, and so it wouldn't chamber in a standard 357 revolver or 357 Magnum revolver. They wanted to stretch it. Now, some of this is evidence when Great Western had some correspondence with Roy Weatherby, who had a chronograph, which was a rare thing in those days. He had pressure barrels and so forth. There was some exchanging going on there with information. He tested one of their Great Western revolvers and in 357 Atomic, and we'll try to get a picture of that letter in here, but he was pushing he was able to achieve a velocity of 1660 feet per second out of that gun. Pretty high. So you can, some may go back and argue, well, some of the manuals at that time, let me go back a little bit further. The original 357 Magnum load, which was known to generate up to 46,000 copper units of pressure, they contained 15.3 to 15.4 grains of Hercules, now Alliant 2400 powder. They pushed a 158 grain bullet at, depending on whose literature and whatever, and barrel lengths and whatever else, around 1500 feet a second. Today we've dropped the pressures down on that to piezoelectric or PSI measurements, which is at 35,000. So that's one reason we've seen 357 Magnum loads get reduced in pressure and velocities. There was primer flow issues. The industry in general are like, it's just too hot, we're having problems, and so they dropped the pressures down to some degree. But in the 357 Atomic was supposed to have 1 more grain of powder above the standard 357 Magnum. That put the pressures right up, well up into the 50,000 plus pressure level. Now the single action, of course, will take that, but you still have primer flow and so forth. But based on those lengthened chambers that they did, I'm convinced they were planning to have a lengthened case and along with a 1 grain increase in powder charge. So that would have been a pretty hot little round. And yet we've never been able to find ammo, case head stamps, or anything else of that nature. It may be out there. We've just not had anybody dig it out of a yard sale somewhere. Who knows where it'd be at? But that was the 357 Atomic. It would have been the most powerful 357 until the 357 Maximum came along, and that was probably in what, 82 or 83 when the 357 Maximum came along. So anyway, little interesting piece of history about Great Western and the 357 Atomic. It was just following World War II. The word atomic was a buzzword because of course, the bombs dropped during World War II, massively powerful and so forth. Some of the writers there tested those guns. There was mixed results with them, but they, of course, were shooting 357 Magnum ammunition. So Anyway, a small piece of history. Maybe someday we'll see a real 357 atomic. If you know of one, have ammo, have a head stamp, I'd love to hear from you. So anyway, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Pierce Brothers.